Hello everyone, once again, my name is Talu and I'm your Customer Success Manager from Lexis, and I will be demonstrating to you Lexis Library today. Lexis Library is your extensive database for your cases, legislation, journal articles, and also your textbooks. Lexis Library has a lot of cases for you and legislation which are accessible from different law reports, such as the most commonly used one are the All England Law Reports and also the Weekly Law Reports on Lexis Library. There are three key ways of navigating through Lexis Library. I'm going to show you all of these three essential ways. The first one is using this search bar, which we also refer to as the Explore option. So this is a keyword search. So what I would always say, you should put your keywords in here. So try to avoid putting questions in the search bar. So stuff like what is maybe a contract, or how do I confirm a contract. So what I would always recommend is just put your keywords in there and Lexis Library will find you the most relevant content for your use. And I'm just going to run an example search on here. So let's say, for example, I want to find out what an invitation to treat is. So I would use my keywords invitation to treat, and what you can see that I'm doing now is, apologies for that. I'm going to put my invitation to treat now, and I'm just going to put that in the speech marks. Okay, and what that does is, because I've put the invitation to treat in speech marks, I'm going to find that phrase on its own. So if I don't use those speech marks, it would find the invitation separately and treat separately, and that's not what we want. We want it to find us the phrase in a document together. What you can do is you can also filter your keywords on here. So you can either have cases, materials, legislation, or commentary. This just depends on what kind of documents you want to access. But for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to leave it as a broad search, and I'm just going to run a search. Okay, so here we have our results, which has over 400 results here, and however this has been split to different content types. So we have cases, journal articles, or commentary. So if you didn't decide what sort of content you wanted at the earliest stage, you can actually get to this result page and then narrow your content to the specific content type you want. What you can also do here is you can search within results. So if, for example, I am looking for content on invitation to treat, however, I want to be very specific to maybe something that has to do with a shop, for example. I will put a shop in here because I want any cases or any result that has the word shop in it. So I always emphasize on this search within results, because for a lot of students, they always kind of get overwhelmed when a lot of results come back to them, and they don't even know, how to further narrow it down and to kind of get to what they're looking for. So I would say, definitely, when you have your questions for your essay, your assignment, or even your seminar works, just go into the search within results. You will have specific keywords on the issue that you are answering. Just pop that in there and Lexis Library would narrow down the results for you. So from over 400 results, you have 121 results, and this has been split again into different content types. When you come into the sort by, you can either sort by relevance, which means how many times the keywords comes up in a document, the source order, also the date, which would start with the most recent results at the top of your page for you. Okay. You can have the different source names here, so from the different reports, so Weekly Law Reports and All England Reports, which are the two leading reports in England and Wales, and LexisNexis actually has content on that as well. So what's next? If I get to this result page and I find information that's useful, or maybe I want to have a look at some points, during your session, because I'm aware that when you log in, it's authenticated for your university. So once you're logged in, you don't need any password or email address. So what you would do is you will tick the results that you're interested in during that session, and you can add to my documents folder. What this would do is it would store in that folder for you to have access to at the end of your session. However, once you log out of that session, it would automatically drop down. So for instance, if you don't want to store in your documents folder, if it's maybe you want to have a look at it at a later date or during a different period, you can either email it to yourself or also download it to your desktop as well. All of these free functions are here for you, or if you also want to print the results, you can actually print it as well. Okay. Next, what we also have is the share link. So the share this results gives you the opportunity to share the results with your colleagues, your course mates, anyone that you're working with, and you just want them to see what you've seen as well, to kind of encourage collaboration with team and assignments as well. So if I select the share this result, this would take me to this hyperlink, and I will just select invitation to treat. and that would open up a different tab for me. Okay, once that's open, I will then copy and paste this hyperlink into an email address, and whoever I send that to will be able to see the exact results that I am also seeing on my page as well. So that's the first key way of searching on Lexis Library, using this central search bar as a keyword search. The next way of searching on Lexis Library is by using the find a title. What do I mean by that? Find a title is basically, I know exactly what I'm looking for, I know the title of the document, and I want to find it. So let's say, for example, I want to find a Law of Property Act, or let's say maybe the Limitation Act or Employment Relations Act. Any legislation that you want to find, this is the place to come to. Do not search for legislation using this keyword search here. So let's say we want to find maybe the Employment Act. So I would say the Employers Relations, Employee Relations Act 1996. Okay, so I can go into that. Come back. The legislation. So if I say the Law of Property Act, okay, so here we get the results page, and the first one that I'm going to highlight here is the Lexis Recommend. So Lexis Recommend will tell you what the status of that legislation is, and for example here we have the partly enforced, which is an amber, so that's basically telling us some of this legislation, some section of this legislation is enforced while some has been repealed. Okay, and on here what you also can see is 234 results. So we're not saying there's 234 Law of Property Act, we're just saying that the first one is the entire act, and following will be the different sections of that legislation as well. So don't be alarmed when you see a lot of results from a legislation. So if I just go to the entire legislation, which is the first result, okay, so here I can also open my table of content, and I can go into any section that I would like to go into. So if I just select part 1, and I want to go into, let's say, section 10. Okay, so that's taking straight to section 10 of that legislation. So this table of contents allows you to navigate through the entire legislation just on the left-hand side. Where you see this dot is basically telling you that section has been taken out, it's been repealed, so it's not longer enforced anymore as well. So watch out for those as well. Okay. On here, you might also see the amber, so maybe section 10 is slightly enforced or section 10 has been repealed. And the final icon that you might also see is what we call the stop press. Stop press is basically telling you that's a new amendment to come within that section of that legislation, so something for you to watch out for as well. Okay, so these are the key values that we do bring to your Lexis Library in relation to your legislation, so that you can get, what the status is, and also we have the find out more here. So this is really good in terms of saving you research time. And the status snapshot basically gives you access to commentary, cases, and journal articles as discussed a particular section of a legislation. So if you want to go into a commentary section, so if I go into this, for example, that will take me to my Horsby's annotation. If it's to be maybe a property textbook, it will take me straight into that commentary as well. And again, for students, a lot of students, I do know that you use journal articles, so any legislation that you're on would also have the quick link into any specific journals that's also discussed that legislation as well. Okay, so that is what the legislation does, and the further values that come with it just right here on the find out more and the status snapshot. Okay, so that is how you use the find a title. The same thing applies if I was trying to find a case. So if I know the name of the case, or maybe I have a citation for the case, I can put that in that find a title. Again, I wouldn't use find a case on the search bar of the central search bar. So let's run an example for a case. So if I say I want to find Stack and Dowden, and I select find. So again, I have my Lexis Recommend here, and I can see that it has a positive treatment, and I can also see the different results for that case as well from the House of Lords. So if I go into the first results here, so you can see this is the full case, the official transcripts, of the case, which you can have a read or you can print or email it to yourself. However, sometimes you just want to get quick access to a case to know what the key facts are and also the decision that was held. And what I would do is I will select the case overview and related cases. And that gives me the key facts of the case and the decision that was held in that case. So rather than having to go through the official transcript, which is longer, you can also access case overview on Lexis library as well. You can see a case history, so this is showing you how the case has moved for the courts at different points in time. And you can also see any other cases that's referring to this case and the treatment that they've received and the signal on this table as well. So again, when you're doing your research, you're working on a case and you just want to see other cases that's heard that decision or distinguished it or applied it, and just to kind of see the different judgments on how relevant the case is as well. This is all here for you, saving you that research time and having to find cases by yourself as well. So that's how you find your cases and any other relevant case that has to do with a case that you filed under Find the Title. Again, if you know the title of a journal article, just pop that in there, the title, and you'll be able to get your journal article as well. So that is the second way of searching on Lexis Library. The third way is by using what we call the advanced search techniques, and this is where the different tabs at the top of this page comes to play. So if you're trying to find cases, legislation, commentary, or even journal articles. So if I go first into the cases tab, so on this page, you can fill in with as much or as little information as you know about a case. If you know just the date, down to judge and counsel, or even the court as well, you can fill this page with any information you have about a case. Or if you just want to use search terms to find a case, you can also use the search term box here. But I'd like to emphasize that the search term box, you have to use the Boolean connectors, and they're basically explained below in the search tips. It just explains to us how the search connectors works, what they are, and the different ones that's available to us. Okay, and the most common ones are and, or, W/P, which means within paragraph, or W/S, which means within sentence. Okay, you don't have to remember them because every time you go into this advanced search tab and you open this page, they will always be there for you to use. So let's say, for example, I want to find a case on duress and maybe undue influence. I would put in here duress, and my connector this time around is the word and undue influence. If I just put duress, undue influence, it doesn't make sense in Lexis Library, which is the reason why we've used the connector and. So I'm just going to run a search on that. Okay, so we have a result of 825 here, and Lexis Recommend again has given us the key case for that specific search words, and we can see more cases here. However, if you want to dig in further, the results page, I would also show you the search within results, as I mentioned earlier. As well, you can search within results here. So within this case, on this keyword, if you want any specific issue to pop up in your results, just put that in there, and Lexis Library will reduce the search for you. So if, for example, within undue influence and duress, you want to find cases that also have the word manifest disadvantage in there, I would say manifest disadvantage. And I will just run a search on that. Okay, so from 825 results, we have 37 results. So when I get a lot of users saying to me, Lexis Library has a lot of content, where do I start? How do I narrow my search? This is a great example of how you can narrow your search on Lexis Library. Again, if these results look quite interesting to you, or you want to have a look again, you can tick them and download, email, or add to my document folder as well. And the different topics that they cover are here, so you can also narrow down into the specific topics and also different sources as well. So that is how you use the cases tab in the advanced search tabs at the top of the page. Another way of using this is to add topics to search, so you can actually go by a topic directory here, which would open up for you. Let me just share that with you. So this is a subject directory that's open to us, so I can either go into any of this topic. So for example, if I want to go into civil procedures and administration of justice, I can expand by selecting that plus over there, and I can be very specific. So I can either go into, let's say we go into alternative dispute resolution, and I can go into maybe conducting the mediation, or if I jump into limitation of actions, again, I can be very specific and go into limitations principle as well. So again, this is just to kind of show you the depth of content that sits within Lexis library. You can browse through any of these key topics and subjects as well to get your cases on. And I'm just going to add those to search, and I'm just going to run the search for you. Just running a search for us. Again, this is our resource page, a lot of cases, just to show you the great amount of content that sits here. And I can always just narrow my search and search for them resource to get into the specific area that I'm looking for as well. So that's how this advanced search tab works, and this is applicable for legislation. So if you're trying to find legislation on key topics, just come to the search box, use your connector or app topics to search. The same for commentary if you're looking for any specific textbooks and you want to add your subject keywords as well, you can put those in there. And finally, for journal articles as well. So for journal articles, if you want to find journals on certain set of words, so for example, I was training a student earlier and she wanted something on law of evidence and maybe identification. So we did find that. So if I say law of evidence and identification, for example, okay, and I search. So that would give me a result on any article that's discussed that. Again, I can be very specific and say maybe I want videos. I can then say videos in my search within results, and that would narrow down my search into any article that's discussed law of evidence, identification, and specifically to videos as well. So that's how you find your journal articles if you don't know the title and you just want to use keywords to find journal articles as well. So going back to the home page, so those are the 3 key ways of searching a Lexis library: your general keyword search, the find a title for the document that you are looking for if you know the title, and the advanced search tabs for situations where you just want to use keywords or add topics to search to find your content. Next we have is a glossary. So the glossary I kind of use as, you know, key definitions. I don't really know what this means and I just want to dive in further. And we as Lexis library, we got in further by just not giving you the definition. We also give you any content that supports that definition. So let's say, for example, I don't know maybe what adverse possession is. I can say adverse possession, find for me, and that gives me a definition, a key legislation, key cases, and also any key commentary in that specific topic area for me as well. So I can see all of those documents. That's also useful as well. Okay, so that's my glossary. Next, we have our bookshelf. This is where your Horsebreeze will sit. And is anybody familiar with Horsebreeze?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Horsebreeze is on your bookshelf. Again, if I wanted to browse or search within Horsebreeze, I can select the browse. And for anyone that doesn't know what Horsebreeze is the extensive narrative of the law in England and Wales. It explains the law in black and white. And if there are any areas that you're not too familiar with, I always say to students, sometimes you come across areas that, you know, you just can't break down. You just want to get it in plain English and understand what exactly the law is. Horsebreeze is the place to go, and it's updated weekly for you. So if I go into, let's say, something very different, let me just find something that we can go into. So if you go into criminal law, and if I then go into offences against the person, and it basically explains that to me in basic English really, and I have my table of contents here that I can navigate through, and I can see any area of law that I want to get further understanding and just to get the explanation of the law is. And this is something that you can cite, and lawyers do cite in court as well, so it's a reliable and credible source for you. So that is your Horsebreeze. You also have the Horsebreeze annotation, which is mirrored in your bookshelf as well. So next, if I just go into my sources tab, The sources tab is where I can browse sources. If you want to see a list of all the sources that you have subscription to on Lexis Library, you can go into any of this category. So if you wanted to see all of the legal journals that you have, you can go and see all of the legal journals, and you'll be able to go into any of these and browse through them as well. And the same applies for any commentary sources. So if you go into commentary, which is what we call textbooks, so this is where your Horsby would say, or any other documents that you might find interesting to have a read at as well. So that is what the sources is on here as well for you. Okay. And just before I let you go, so if I just show you current awareness, so if you're someone that likes to keep up to date with the current news or news updates, you can create current awareness on Lexis Library by just selecting create a current awareness update and select the clause create, and that will just load up for you. And if I just say example, if I just say test, for example, and here I can go into cases and say maybe I want a general case digest or an appeal tracker. I can go into journals and just say maybe I want journals, take the whole extension of journals. Legislation, I can say maybe I want a bill tracker, for example, amended legislation. I want to be aware of that. So select all jurisdiction and next, and then I can then go into my topics. So any topic that you're interested in getting your news on, just go into that, and wherever you see this arrow, just basically means you can drill in further. You don't have to select the entire civil procedure and administration of justice topic. You can be very specific what area of that topic that you want to get news on. So if we go into maybe civil evidence, I can arrow down, I can go into maybe burden and standard of proof. I can go back to the start page and go into another topic, maybe employment law, and I can go in further and just choose any topic on employment as well. And once you're done with that, just scroll down and go next. It would then ask you for your email address, so just put your email address in there. Next again, it would ask you the frequency of how you want it to be delivered, so if it's business day or weekly, and you can choose a specific time as well that you want it delivered, so you have that control. Next again, and you see a list of all of these things that you've selected. Just click finish, and that will come straight to your inbox when there's an update on that particular subject that you've actually selected as well. Okay, so that's your current awareness page. Okay, so that's essentially everything on Lexis Library that is key for you. So again, just to do a quick recap again, search, keyword search on here, find the title, the advanced set tabs, you have your glossary here, your bookshelf where your Horsby sits, which basically explains the law for you in certain areas of law that you're not sure about. To create your current awareness update is there for you, and to find your sources, they're all there by going to your bar sources as well. Thank you so much for attending this session, and I hope you found it useful. So I'm just going to stop recording now.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, just give me 1 minute. I'm going to stop recording and I'll take questions.